Alright, 99 Honda vfr800 with 112,000 something miles on it. Bunch of miles. Tons of miles. 112,447. And what I got is I'm driving and intermittently I'll just all of a sudden lose power and lose the fuel pump. You can hear it not prime up, and I'm checking it out, and this 30 amp fuse that's really mounted here normally is not blown but melted. The legs of the fuse get melted, and so I you know, strand on the side of the road, I just put a fuse in it real quick and got going, melted that fuse, put another fuse in it, which I'm really not recommending, but just at least got it going. Never oversized the fuse though, still using a 30. And so I'm diagnosing it, and you know, got good reason to believe the fuel pump's pulling higher than normal current. That's heating up the fuse in the circuit, and I even changed the fuse holder because it opened up the female terminals, but it's doing the same thing on this one, so it's not a fuse holder issue. So I've got the inductive amp clamp hooked up to a picoscope, an oscilloscope, and I've taken this waveform, and basically there's 8 segments of this motor in the commutator sections, and so I've graphed it from here to here as one revolution of the pump, and basically done the math based on the frequency and found out this pump is only turning half speed. It's doing about 3,000 RPMs. It should be turning about 6. And so if I zoom in on that, I took this waveform with it running. So if I zoom in on that, pressing this box and go right here, it's a couple things. So from this line to this line is one revolution, and each one of these should be a nice clean like high spot bump, you know, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8. Well, this should be a nice arc. It's got a kind of a break up right there, small one there. This is like my healthiest one. Each one of these breaking up is showing, like, you know, there's some wear in the motor, and these two right here are almost like dead. So this part of the motor is really like stalling out. So with the RPM, it's able to run from this decent commutator and kind of like scoot across these to the next one that actually makes some RPMs. But there's definitely a dead drop right here, and this dead drop is where it's pulling really high current. And then each of these having a problem is going to pull slightly higher current, but this spot right here is the reason that motor's pulling tons of current and not really running at the proper RPM. So I can, based on my checks with the oscilloscope, definitely know that I have a worn fuel pump. So I'm going to go ahead and order a fuel pump, and hopefully this thing will make me home. But remember, the symptoms were melted fuse or blowing fuse repeatedly with a whole bunch of miles. The short answer is probably your fuel pump's worn and pulling too much current. The real technical thing to do would be to hook up your oscilloscope with the amp clamp, and you do it right here in line, and then actually check your segments and see if they all look healthy. But every single one of them's bad, but these two here are like totally dead. So gonna get a fuel pump.